Asia and the Pacific is at a crossroads. The clean energy transition is no longer an option, it's a necessity. Home to over half of the world's population and responsible for more than 50% of global emissions, the region's choices will shape our future. That's why the legacy of the Asia Clean Energy Forum has never been more relevant than it is today. 63 million people in the region still lack electricity. Energy poverty and rising demand are converging, and time is running out. This week at the Asian Development Bank, the 20th Asia Clean Energy Forum brings together governments, business leaders, experts, and innovators to confront these challenges. Under the theme Empowering the Future, Clean Energy Innovations, Regional Cooperation and Integration, and Financing Solutions, ACEF 2025 calls for collaboration and bold action. In thematic track 1, we explore how technological innovation is expanding access, inclusion, and the possibilities for a decentralized clean energy future. Track 2 addresses regional power trade and market integration because no country can do this alone. Shared infrastructure and cooperation are key. Track 3 focuses on energy efficiency, the fastest and most cost-effective way to reduce emissions and save costs, yet too often overlooked. And Track 4 is about unlocking private sector and partnership financing. Clean energy needs capital. We must de-risk and scale investment now. For 20 years, ACEF has been the platform where vision turns into action, where regional leaders and energy champions come together to accelerate clean energy progress. Through 5 days, 4 thematic tracks, and nearly 50 sessions, ACEF 2025 empowers the future by sharing solutions, financing breakthroughs, and driving collaborations. The time for action is now. The decisions we make today will define the energy systems and the future of our planet for generations to come. Welcome to the 20th anniversary edition of ACEF, a testament to 2 decades of regional leadership and partnerships in clean energy.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. Welcome to the 20th Asia Clean Energy Forum. I am Rukenia Domingo from ADB, honored to be your MC for this morning's opening plenary session of ACEF 2025. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce ADB's Vice President of Sector and Thematic Groups, Fatima Yasmin, who will provide the forum's welcome remarks. VP Fatima, I welcome you to the stage.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, a very good morning to you all. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 20th Asia Clean Energy Forum. This year's theme captures the spirit of ACEF, a collective journey through collaboration, innovation, and pragmatic solution. It champions the development of cleaner and more sustainable energy systems that drive economic growth, strengthen energy security, ensure affordable and reliable access, uphold environmental sustainability, and ultimately improve quality of life for all. At ADB, we are proud to be your partner in advancing low carbon technologies and promoting just energy transition in Asia and the Pacific. Let me briefly highlight 3 ongoing initiatives that reflect our commitment. First, in Bhutan, where winter months bring energy shortages due to declining hydropower output. ADB has extended a $30 million loan to install solar PV systems on 1,500 public buildings. This is expected to generate up to 35 megawatts of clean solar energy and enhance energy resilience. Second, in Tajikistan, ADB is supporting renewable energy expansion through a $21 million grant to upgrade hydropower facilities in Katlon province. This is being complemented by an additional $15 million to reconnect the country's power system to a regional integrated renewable energy network. Third, in Vietnam, ADB arranged and syndicated a $173 million green financing package for a privately owned Lotus Wind Power project. This is the country's first internationally financed wind power project. Operating since 2021, this project contributes to emission reductions and enhance energy sustainability. We see SF as a platform to share practical knowledge, raise awareness, and strengthen partnership that drive clean energy transition in Asia and the Pacific. This week, we have over 40 sessions to explore energy challenges and opportunities under 4 thematic tracks. The first track is technological innovation. This explores advancements in renewable energy technologies, storages, and smart grid to expand access and unlock new potential. Under the second track, regional power trade and market integration, we will explore cross-border energy cooperation, policy harmonization, and strategies to mitigate regulatory and geopolitical risks. The third track is energy efficiency. This highlights innovative solutions for smart grids, energy management systems, energy efficient buildings, and industry best practices. The fourth track is private sector and partnership financing. This will focus on innovative financing mechanisms, risk mitigation, and capacity building to drive private sector participation and investment. In addition, we will have operations sessions. This will spotlight ADB's clean energy work with our developing member countries. The spotlight sessions will focus on special emerging topics relevant to energy transitions, and deep dive workshops will be marked by discussions of concepts, ideas, and technologies. Now, I am pleased to open today's plenary session. Power Trade, Empowering the Region's Clean Energy Future, Improving Supply, Access, and Innovation. We explore how regional power trade enhances clean energy reliability, affordability, and innovation by pooling resources and balancing supply and demand. Key topics include cross-border collaboration to accelerate clean energy innovation, policy frameworks that enable renewable energy integration and investment, leveraging digital technologies to improve sustainability and efficiency, and ensuring equitable and inclusive access to clean energy benefits. Today's session features introductory remarks from our co-organizer, Korea Energy Agency Executive Director, Bo Nam-shin. This will be followed by two keynote messages by UN Under-Secretary General and concurrently UN ESCAP's Executive Secretary Armida Salcia Alisjabana, and Philippines Department of Energy Undersecretary Cristina Roena Guevara. This will be followed by a panel discussion. The panel will be led by ADB Director General Hideaki Iwasaki and moderated by Senior Secretary Director Priyanta Vijaytunga. The topic for panel discussion is Power Trade, Pioneering a Sustainable Energy Future. The panel will be joined by esteemed panel members from various organizations. As I come to the end of my remarks, I want to make one key point. This Asia Clean Energy Forum is not just about energy. It is about shaping a sustainable and inclusive future. Let's continue fostering innovation, strengthening cooperation, and mobilizing finance and solutions that empowers our region. Thank you and look forward to a week of meaningful dialogue and collaboration. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, VP Fatima, for welcoming our guests and delegates and giving us a roadmap of this morning's event and this week. ASEF has been a successful flagship event in the region because of its sponsors, partners, and co-organizers. The Korea Energy Agency has been an ASEF co-organizer since 2015. This morning, we welcome KEA's Executive Director, Bo Nam-shin, for his introductory remarks. Mr. Shin, welcome to the stage.
Good morning. 안녕하십니까? Ms. Fatima Yasmin, the Vice President of Asian Development Bank, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Korea Energy Agency, I thank you, ADB, for co-organizing the 20th Asia Clean Energy Forum on the theme Empowering Future, Clean Energy Innovation, Regional Cooperation and Integration, and Financing Solutions. Since its inception in 2006, ASEP has served a key platform for dynamic dialogue and promotion of clean energy initiatives. The forum promoted sustainable energy solutions and new business model, including the Asia Pacific Hub for Sustainable Energy for All initiative. As a co-host of ASEP, it has been a great honor for Korea Energy Agency to join this journey since 2015. Over the past decade, we have been sharing the best practice from the Korea DMC's cooperation project, cooperation and business cooperation program with the international organizations, and the innovative technology and business model at the forum. Together with the ADB, KEA will continue to share our expertise and best practices with the member state and to contribute to the sustainable and reliable energy system for stable energy supply and global net zero for another next 20 years. The acceleration of clean energy transition in recent years has been remarkable. Between 2021-24, the global clean energy investment grew from the $750 billion to $1 trillion, representing a 167% increase over the 3 years. This reflects global community's accelerating commitment to sustainable energy transition. However, this transition will not succeed in isolation. It requires a regional cooperation to promote national and international grid connections, renewable energy integrations. Recognizing the importance of regional cooperation, ADB has demonstrated strong leadership by supporting initiatives such as ASEAN Power Grid and Greater Mekong Sub-Region Economic Cooperation Program. In addition to building a physical connection, we can strengthen the regional cooperation through joint projects and trading. Republic of Korea is electronically isolated with no cross-border interconnections, making it a power island. Given this condition, we are pursuing bilateral agreement with partner countries to invest in emission reduction projects and facilitate carbon credit exchange in line with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Since 2024, KEA has secured annual budget of up to $20 million to invest in these projects, including solar-powered charging infrastructure for e-mobility in Cambodia. Our efforts demonstrate how the countries can contribute to global climate goals without relying on physical infrastructure. Regional and multilateral dialogue also plays a vital role in fostering cooperation for clean energy transition. In 2025, this year, Republic of Korea hosts the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Process, including Energy Ministerial Meeting and Clean Energy Ministerial Meeting at the last week of August in Busan. Under the theme of Building Sustainable Tomorrow for APEC 2025, the upcoming APEC Energy Ministerial Meeting will focus on 3 topics: clean electricity, grid security, and AI for energy, to address the energy transition in our region. The theme of the Clean Energy Ministerial also include decarbonization of the industrial sector, power sector transformation, and AI and energy. Korean government, together with the IEA, will host the 3rd World Climate Industry Expo, which will be held from 27th August to 29th in parallel with the two energy ministerial meetings. Under the theme Energy for AI and AI for Energy, this year, World Climate Industrial Expo will showcase sustainable energy innovation and facilitate comprehensive dialogue on how AI is driving energy innovation, as well as how this energy innovation can also influence the future of AI. KEA also will organize a conference with the ADB and World Bank to discuss on smart energy and innovation. Building on these efforts, the Republic of Korea will continue to collaborate with partners to advance clean energy transition. At Korea Energy Show, the other part of the World Climate Industry Expo, the national and international companies will show their state-of-art technology of clean energy. In conclusion, the Asia Clean Energy Forum is a global platform where knowledge meets leadership, where the policy connects with the innovation, and where the collaboration gives rise to real progress. As we celebrate 20th anniversary of ASEP, let us reconfirm our shared vision and deepen our commitment to a more sustainable future. I hope all of you will gain the valuable insight this week and take away new opportunities for cooperation and partnership. Let us continue to work together to realize full vision of empowering future. I thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director Shin, for those valuable remarks and for sharing those exciting events that's upcoming in Korea. Today, we are celebrating an important milestone, ASEF's 20th anniversary. Let's take a look back with a short video on ASEF through the years.
20 years ago, Asia and the Pacific's rapid growth and rural to urban migration were driving a sharp rise in energy demand, outpacing global trends. Yet, nearly 1 billion people in the region lacked access to modern energy, and over 2 billion relied on traditional biomass, limiting opportunity and quality of life. Fossil fuels powered the region's growth, but also increased emissions, oil dependence, and environmental strain. As concerns over energy security and economic and environmental sustainability grew, clean energy emerged as a vital solution. Global momentum was building. The 2002 World Summit on Sustainable Development, the 2004 and 2005 Renewable Energy Conferences, and the 2005 Kyoto Protocol featuring the Clean Development Mechanism all reinforced the shift toward renewables and energy efficiency. Precursors to ASEF emerged 20 years ago, and in 2007, in partnership with USAID, the name Asia Clean Energy Forum was adopted with the concept of bringing together leaders and innovators to tackle issues on energy access and security through clean energy. ASEF became a catalyst for sharing knowledge, sparking innovation, and unlocking finance for clean energy across the region. It garnered participants from Asia and the Pacific and beyond who have been shaping the technologies, policies, and financing mechanisms that transform the region. In 2009, ADB reaffirmed its clean energy agenda with a new energy policy, committing to invest $2 billion annually in clean energy. In 2011, the UN's Sustainable Energy for All echoed ASEF's mission. By 2014, the World Energy Council joined as an ASEF co-organizer, followed by Korea Energy Agency, formerly Korea Energy Management Corporation in 2015, strengthening regional collaboration. As the world adopted the SDGs and prepared for the Paris Agreement, ASEF continued to champion energy access, renewable integration, and innovation. Off-grid and mini-grid solutions gained traction, with ASEF sharing lessons to better serve remote communities. ASEF evolved, aligning with the Paris Agreement and the SDG 7 on clean, affordable, reliable, and modern energy for all. Amid the technological advancements, ASEF broadened its focus, bridging policy, technology, and finance to support just and inclusive energy transitions. In the 2020s, ASEF responded to new challenges, hosting virtual forums during the pandemic and spotlighting green recovery, cross-sector, and integrated solutions. ASEF also explored emerging technologies like floating solar, offshore wind, and marine renewables while promoting digitalization and smart grids for system efficiency and reliability. In 2021, ADB introduced a new energy policy aligned with ADB Strategy 2030 and the SDGs to guide its work toward a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable future. Now, in 2025, we mark 20 years of ASEF, 2 decades of knowledge sharing, policy action, and facilitating investments that have helped reshape Asia and the Pacific's energy landscape. ASEF's success is powered by its champions, from ADB experts to thousands of participants across the region and beyond. As we celebrate this milestone, ASEF 2025 sets the stage for the next era, driven by innovation, cooperation, and bold financing solutions. But the journey does not end here. The next decade demands stronger partnerships, smarter financing, and greater ambition. What we build today will shape tomorrow. Join the conversation. Share your insights. Build partnerships. ASEF is more than a forum. It's a movement. Be part of the change, accelerating clean energy for a progressive, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific and beyond.
Thank you for the organizers for such a great, inspiring video. Indeed, ASEF has come a long way. This brings us to the opening plenary keynote messages. Our first keynote message on strengthening regional cooperation to advance energy connectivity will be presented via video from Undersecretary General and Executive Secretary, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, Armida Salcia Elijabana. We will start the video now.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to address the opening plenary of the Asia Clean Energy Forum 2025. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to the Asian Development Bank and its partners on the 20th anniversary of this very important forum. This gathering has become a cornerstone of regional collaboration on clean energy, consistently advancing inclusive dialogue, innovation, and action. Over the last 2 decades, Asia Clean Energy Forum has created a vibrant community of policymakers, experts, and practitioners committed to a future with sustainable energy. This milestone is a testament to your enduring leadership and shared vision. The Asia-Pacific region has made significant progress in achieving SDG 7, affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all by 2030, and expanding energy access and deploying renewable technologies. The region is at the very heart of this transformation. In 2024, clean energy contributed a record 10% of China's GDP for the first time ever. The region is also not only the largest energy consumer, it is now the global engine of the clean energy transition. From large-scale solar and wind installation in China and India to emerging hydrogen hubs in the Republic of Korea and Japan to geothermal advances in Indonesia and the Philippines, Asia is leading the way. But let us also be clear, progress is not uniform. Most of Asia's energy demand is still being met by coal. Millions remain without reliable electricity. Urbanization, industrialization, and climate extremes are straining our power systems just as demand for cooling continues to rise. The theme of this year's opening plenary, Power Trade, Empowering the Region's Clean Energy Futures, could not be more timely. The regional power trade is one of the most powerful tools to accelerate the energy transition. Interconnected power systems enable countries to share diverse resources from Bhutan's hydropower and Mongolia's wind to Thailand's solar, and to improve reliability, reduce system costs, and replace coal with clean alternatives. At ESCAP, we are working closely with member states to develop a long-term vision for the interconnection of the region's grids through our regional roadmap on power system connectivity. This will increase cross-border trade of renewable energy resources to help accelerate the secure and affordable decarbonization of our systems. We are currently working with partners to implement the regional roadmap to enable more cross-border trade of renewable energy resources in Southeast Asia through the ASEAN Power Grid, Green Power Corridor in Northeast Asia, and in Central and Southwest Asia. These are not just infrastructure projects, they are building blocks of regional resilience and shared prosperity on energy transition and climate action. To accelerate progress, we must act on three critical fronts. First, we must scale up ambition and align national plans with global and regional goals. For instance, despite setting a new high in annual capacity expansion, the growth still falls to reach the levels needed to deliver on the global goal to triple renewable energy by 2030. The new round of NDCs is due this year. These plans must clearly chart a just energy transition that aligns with the 1.5-degree target. They must include concrete steps to phase out coal, scale up renewables, enhance energy efficiency, and integrate energy markets across borders. Then we must close the finance gap, especially for developing countries. Despite falling technology costs, clean energy projects remain capital intensive. In Southeast Asia, in particular, countries continue to face financing barriers such as high perceived risk, limited green financial markets, and regulatory uncertainty. ESCAP's work and ESCAP work with Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam shows that effective carbon pricing, regulatory clarity, and targeted public-private partnership are key to unlocking capital. And finally, we have to insist that the transition be just and inclusive. As we shift away from fossil fuels, it is crucial to address the needs of vulnerable population and workers while also fostering economic growth and social equity. This can be achieved through policy framework, infrastructure development, and technological advancement, all while mobilizing financial resources and encouraging regional cooperation. ESCAP and UNEP are working with governments to develop national cooling action plans, an example of how regional solutions can address local challenges. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this region has the required capacity for innovation and investment, as well as the institutional strength to set pace for global change. We are not short of technology, we are not short of resources. What we need now is greater coordination, faster implementation, and deeper regional solidarity. The Asia Clean Energy Forum 2025 is the space where government, business, and civil society come together not only to share ideas, but to take action. Stand ready to support this journey. Through our SG7 roadmap, energy connectivity initiatives, and regional cooperation platform, we are committed to helping countries unlock their full clean energy potential while ensuring that the transition is fair, inclusive, and just. Let Asia Clean Energy Forum 2025 mark a bold step forward in building a connected, resilient, as well as renewable powered Asia. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very successful week ahead. Thank you very much.
We thank Undersecretary General Alicia Bana for sending us her message and also giving the regional perspective. The next keynote speaker is Secretary KTM Udayanga Himapala from the Ministry of Power and Energy, Sri Lanka. He will be speaking on transitioning the energy sector, the story of a developing country. Secretary Himapala, I welcome you to the stage.
Members of the board, senior management, and the officers of ADB, and all distinguished participants. Good morning, all of you, and greetings from the government of Sri Lanka as well as peoples from Sri Lanka. First, I wish to express my deep appreciation to Asian Development Bank for inviting me to address this gathering at its 20th edition of flagship Asia Clean Energy Forum. As myself have seen, it has grown from year to year and has earned a remarkable reputation to be one of the foremost gathering of energy sector stakeholders, both in the region as well as from the outside. It is both a privilege and I think it's also a responsibility to stand before you today and share Sri Lanka's energy transition journey. This story is not just ours, it mirrors a path of many developing countries and offers a vision for what the future should be. In the early stages of our transition, Sri Lanka was among the few nations able to proudly claim nearly 100% renewable electricity in our energy mix. However, as our economy grew and urbanization accelerated, we, like many developing countries, had to introduce fossil fuel-based thermal generations to ensure the energy security. At the time, this was a necessary step. From a nearly 100% clean energy profile, we shifted to fossil-heavy mix, prioritizing mainly short-term grid stability. While this helped us meet immediate needs, it also increased our dependence on imported fuels and also exposing us to global price volatility and rising electricity cost and pressure on our foreign reserves. Today, Sri Lanka, along with other countries in our region, stand at a crucial crossroads in its energy transition. On one side, we remain committed to ensuring energy security and mainly or importantly, affordability of our people. On the other, we are supported by a dynamic private sector and a strong international investment interest. At the same time, we must ensure that energy remains affordable for low-income households and also our local industries. I believe this energy transition is more than just a technical shift. It must be people-centric. A just transition is not simply about installing solar panels or maybe wind turbines. It's about people. It is about ensuring energy is accessible, equitable, clean, and affordable for all. We have learned it through hard way during our recent economic crisis when the poor and most vulnerable people suffered immensely. No doubt, this was no different in some other countries too in our region following COVID pandemic. As a country, we are targeting 30% reduction electricity tariff over the next 5 years. This must be the hope for most of our peers in Asia and the Pacific. This cannot be achieved through subsidies, but by cutting generation cost with low cost renewable energy and while minimizing losses. Whether it's a child studying under a solar lamp or a rural business thriving with reliable power, clean energy must improve their lives, not just meet our targets. To drive this shift, we are in the process of taking bold policy legislative reforms. One of our key initiatives is the development of a new Energy Transition Act designed to unify electricity, petroleum, and emerging energy sectors under one regulatory and policy framework. We believe this is essential to achieving a truly inclusive, people-centered energy transition. Additionally, we are advancing cross-border interconnection with India to enhance access, cheaper, cleaner, and more stable regional energy markets while strengthening the energy security across borders. Beyond policy, people-centric reforms are crucial. Sri Lanka has already demonstrated effective reform models as well, such as development of Lanka Electricity Company with ADB support, our first major step toward energy sector transformation as far back as early 1980s. These reforms aim to de-risk investment, foster innovation, and accelerate our energy transition. All in support of national development, industrial growth, and improved quality of life of people. We believe that reliable, clean energy is not a luxury. It is the foundation of economic transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, the success of our energy transition will not be measured in megawatts. It will be measured in lives uplifted, business empowered, and communities strength. We are committed to building a future where energy is not only cleaner, but also fairer and more affordable and accessible to all. Lastly, I want to express our sincere gratitude to ADB for their continued support of developing nation like Sri Lanka. Before I conclude, I would like to highlight that one more critical factor, that is financing. What we need is not just more funding, but a smarter financing mechanism that reduce risk, align public and private interest, and keep people at the center, ensuring that no one is behind. Let me end by quoting from an important and timely verse from Dhammapada, a collection saying of Lord Buddha. Appamado amatapadang, pamado machunopada. The meaning of which is delay will lead to regret. Let us not regret and come together and do what is necessary today for a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Mapala, for the insightful message. and for sharing the great strides Sri Lanka has achieved on clean energy. Our next keynote message comes from here in the Philippines, to be delivered by Undersecretary Rowena Cristina Guevara from the Department of Energy, the Philippines. She will speak on a regional approach in promoting energy security and tackling the challenges of the energy transition. Undersecretary Guevara, I welcome you to the stage.
Distinguished colleagues, partners, and fellow champions of clean energy, a pleasant morning to all of you. It is an honor to be here today to address this respected gathering of clean energy leaders and stakeholders across the region and beyond. I extend my gratitude to the Asian Development Bank and the organizers of the Asia Clean Energy Forum for providing this platform for meaningful dialogue. The world today stands at a critical juncture. The global climate crisis demands decisive and collective action. At the same time, we face growing political and economic uncertainties. These twin forces, environmental urgency and geopolitical instability, create a climate risk. And with greater risk comes greater costs. Costs to our economies, our infrastructure, and most critically, to the well-being of our people. In the Philippines, security of supply through diversification has been the centerpiece of this administration's energy agenda. This allows us not only to shield ourselves from global market volatility, but also to build a more resilient and sustainable energy system. This is why we are focused on increasing the share of energy sources that are indigenous to the Philippines. When we have greater control over the availability and pricing of our energy sources, we are able to make better long-term decisions in the interest of national development. The cheapest kilowatt hour today is not necessarily the cheapest in the long run. Strategic planning requires that we also look beyond short-term prices to assess stability and sustainability. However, this cannot be achieved by one country alone. Regional cooperation and cross-border coordination are essential. Through collaboration, we can achieve scale, share learnings, and pool resources to address common challenges. Allow me to provide a snapshot of the Philippine energy sector as it stands today. Our energy mix remains heavily reliant on fossil fuels and, crucially, on imported energy. Over 54% of our total primary energy supply is imported. Coal dominates the generation mix, accounting for 63% of electricity production, of which 83% is imported. In 2024, 99.5% of that imported coal came from a single source. Such reliance exposes us to substantial risks in the event of supply disruptions and price shocks. Natural gas has begun to play a more prominent role in our energy mix, now accounting for 22% of power generation. However, the domestic supply from our Malampaya gas field has declined by half since 2016. As a result, imports of liquefied natural gas have risen, now making up 46% of our natural gas feedstock. Off-grid areas, while representing only 2% of national demand, are overwhelmingly powered by imported oil, accounting for 85% of generation in these areas. To address this, we are working with the Asian Development Bank on a $461 million program to help the National Power Corporation hybridize off-grid systems and strengthen distribution lines, reducing dependence on imported fuels and lowering power costs. Transport remains another area of concern. Fuel used in the transport sector accounts for 35% of the total final energy consumption, with 96% of that demand met by imported oil. On the brighter side, renewable energy offers a promising pathway forward. RE resources are indigenous, environmentally sustainable, and more resilient against global market shocks. At present, renewables make up 22% of our power generation mix. However, the share of variable renewables, solar and wind, is still low at just 3%. This means we have a significant room for growth. Yes, our targets are ambitious, but we firmly believe that they are achievable. A 35% share of renewables by 2030, 5 years from now, and 50% by 2040. These goals are not limited to variable renewable energy. They include geothermal, which serves as a baseload power source, as well as pumped storage hydropower, which can complement solar and wind. Once the cornerstone of our power sector, geothermal and hydropower contribute today only 10% and 8% of electricity generation, respectively. If we wish to achieve our goals, innovation is imperative, and it must occur across three dimensions: technology, finance, and governance. First, technological innovation. We must continue to invest in new and emerging technologies that can accelerate the transition. The Philippines is pioneering efforts in frontier resources like naturally occurring hydrogen. We have successfully conducted the world's first energy bid focused on this resource. Service contracts resulting from the first natural occurring hydrogen round are currently awaiting the President's signature. Managing the intermittency of renewable energy is another priority. Advanced transmission technologies such as grid-forming inverters will play a crucial role. Smart meters, energy efficiency measures, and demand-side management must also be pursued with equal vigor. We are grateful for the continued support of ADB in our Government Energy Management Program. We are nearing finalization of a new package to support rooftop solar installations and expanding the use of energy-efficient appliances in public schools and government hospitals, two areas where clean energy can make a profound impact. Second, financial innovation. The Philippine power sector is unique in that it is privately owned, unsubsidized, and relies on market-based mechanisms. As such, project economics is a decisive factor in the entry of new supply. Our financial institutions must be brought in as active partners, not only to fund projects, but to help reduce risks and ultimately lower costs. We are working with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to create a more conducive investment environment for clean energy, while at the same time recognizing that banks must walk in step with the energy sector, as the energy transition will take place over time, not overnight. We urge financial institutions to explore innovative deal structures that reduce dependence on long-term offtake agreements or power supply agreements. This will mitigate stranded assets risks and aligns with the country's efforts to empower consumers via their retail, competition, and open access, or ARCOA. We are also taking steps to make market platforms like the wholesale electricity spot market more bankable. As more transactions occur in these markets, price volatility is reduced, improving the long-term viability of merchant plants. Geothermal energy, despite its vast potential, remains underdeveloped due to high exploration risks. No new fields have been developed since the privatization of the government's geothermal exploration arm. We aim to change that through a geothermal de-risking facility developed in partnership with ADB and the Land Bank of the Philippines. This facility is now in the final stages of approval. Finally, we need to leverage concessional, climate finance, and blended financing instruments to keep clean energy affordable for all. Our full commitment to the global energy transition cannot be divorced from our responsibility to ensure that energy remains accessible and equitable. Third, innovation in governance. Since our sector's privatization in 2001, much of the responsibility for efficiency has shifted to the private sector. But markets do not always function perfectly. Government must be prepared to intervene when market failures occur. Transmission is a clear example. While substation capacity has grown by 167% since 2009, actual transmission line length has increased by only 28%. Much of our current infrastructure still stems from pre-privatization assets. We are evaluating the performance of our transmission concessionaire and examining international lessons, such as the United Kingdom's recent decision to renationalize its system operation. In this regard, government must be mindful, as always, of market concentration and exercise of market power by dominant entities. This stifles competition and prevents innovation. One way in which regional cooperation can prove useful is in leveraging the tightly knit network of antitrust or competition agencies in Asia and around the world in coming up with more effective policies to prevent the abuse of market power in the energy sector. At home, the Department of Energy, the Energy Regulatory Commission, and the Philippine Competition Commission are expanding cooperation to ensure fair and competitive markets. As the Philippines prepares for its chairmanship of ASEAN in 2026, we wish to highlight the transformative potential of regional integration. Through a more integrated regional approach, we see opportunities for foreign investors to look at ASEAN as the investment area as opposed to just the potential of individual countries. The ASEAN Power Grid Initiative can serve as the backbone of a more resilient and efficient regional energy market. Power flows across borders can reduce supply disruptions and unlock synergies, particularly for renewable energy, as we harmonize the geographical differences that dictate availability. Standardization, harmonization, and unification of policy approaches will reduce costs and improve investor confidence. For example, a more coordinated and regional coal transition strategy will allow both producers like Indonesia and importers like the Philippines and Vietnam to better manage this challenge. Emerging technologies like nuclear energy also stand to benefit from regional cooperation and economies of scale, especially in areas like supply chain management, waste disposal, and emergency response. The road ahead is uncertain. Challenges will continue to emerge, but collective potential of our region is enormous and already within reach. If we harness it together with courage and collaboration, we can shape a future that is secure, sustainable, and shared by all. In closing, the message I leave with you today is this: the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. May we continue to walk forward together toward our clean energy future. Thank you.
Thank you, Undersecretary Guevara, for your important message and for highlighting the importance of regional cooperation and innovation. We will now have a brief coffee break for 30 minutes. May I just please request VP Fatima and all of this morning's speakers to join me on stage for a photo op. Thank you. Enjoy. For the next session, the panelists, please stay for a photo op after our speakers. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had a great break, coffee break. It was an extended coffee break, yes. Please come on in. For everyone who's outside, please come in. Yeah. Let's settle down. Thank you. Mhm. Very good. All right. Good morning once again, everyone. We will now have the opening plenary panel discussion on power trade, powering a sustainable energy future. Please allow me to introduce ADB Director General Sectors Department 1, Hideaki Iwasaki, who will set the scene for the panel discussion. DG, please come to the stage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to this opening plenary panel discussion on power trade, pioneering a sustainable energy future. This panel discussion that we are about to embark upon is to explore how regional power trade can enhance clean energy supply, improve access to energy, and drive innovation in an environmentally resilient manner. We anticipate that this morning's discussion will highlight the importance of cross-border collaboration and policy frameworks in integrating diverse clean energy resources into a regional power grid. A lot has been discussed, mentioned by previous speakers, but let me just highlight why regional power trade is important. It enhances the reliability, affordability, and sustainability of clean energy. It facilitates the exchange of electricity across borders. It optimizes the use of diverse energy resources, balances supply and demand, and reduces costs. Collaboration ensures that clean energy is not only accessible, but also dependable, paving the way for a resilient and sustainable energy system. We were reminded in the earlier session that still about 60 million people in Asia and the Pacific lack electricity, while hundreds of millions endure unreliable supply, rely on traditional fuels for cooking, and face growing risk due to lack of access to cooling. Cross-border power trade can help close these gaps by connecting energy surplus and energy deficit areas, especially through renewable energy sources like hydropower and solar. Cross-border collaboration serves as a cornerstone of innovation in the energy sector. When countries work together, they bring diverse expertise, technologies, and perspectives to the table, accelerating the development and deployment of cutting-edge clean energy solutions. By sharing knowledge and resources, we can scale up clean energy innovation, making them more effective and widespread. Effective policy frameworks are essential to support power trade and market integration. We'll be discussing a lot about this. This encourages investment, streamline regulatory processes, and create incentives for the seamless integration of clean energy options that improve regional energy security, leading to enhanced economic growth.
That's the ultimate goal of what we discuss in this week. ADB, in close collaboration with its partners, is providing policy, technical, and financial support to strengthen regional power system planning, integrate renewable energy, develop cross-border infrastructure, and support market design, laying the foundation for a more connected, resilient, and sustainable energy future. In this regard, sovereign investments to complement, enable, and expand private sector investments play a crucial role. As we engage in this discussion, let us remind ourselves of the immense potential that lies within our region to transform our energy landscape. Power trade is not just about exchanging electricity. It is about forging a path towards a sustainable, reliable, and affordable energy future for all. Thank you, and I look forward to our fruitful discussion.
Thank you, DG, for setting the stage. Please allow me to introduce the panelists. When I state your name, please come to the stage and take a seat. Director, Energy Division, UNSCAP, Hong Peng Liu. Director General, International Policy and Carbon Neutrality, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Japan, Shinichi Kihara. President, Doosan Enerbility Company Limited, Jung Kwan Kim. And Head, International Energy Asia Regional Cooperation Center, Singapore, Su Earn Tan. Thank you, panelists, for coming to the stage. Now, please allow me to introduce the Senior Sector Director of ADB's Energy Sector Office, Priyantha Wijayatanga, who will moderate the panel discussion. Priyantha, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, once again, let me say good morning to all of you and extend a warm welcome to this very important flagship event. It is our 20th edition. I'm sure you would have, some of you all would have already attended many of these ASFs in the past, but this is very special because this has been growing for the last 20 years. And as you can see, it has grown from year to year. Actually, during the COVID pandemic, of course, we had a bit of a down, but then we have picked it up. And as I understand, we have already got closer to 1,500 registrants this year, which is very, very remarkable. And this is supposed to be one of the, if not the most important clean energy event in this region. And so once again, welcome and good morning to all of you. This particular session, the panel discussion is on power trade and how power trade is going to help the clean energy transition. In fact, regional cooperation has been one of our pillars or important focus areas in ADB for many, many years. If you go back and look at Strategy 2020, regional cooperation was an important pillar. And in fact, in 2030, Strategy 2030, it's very similar. And in fact, if you look at our Energy Policy 2021, we have Energy Policy 2021 based on 5 principles. and regional cooperation is one of them. So you can see from that, from these specific, policies, how important regional cooperation is for us in ADB and for the development of energy sector in Asia Pacific region. So that's why we thought it's quite important that we pick up this particular topic for the important opening plenary panel discussion. And in ADB, I'm sure most of you all know we have very important few sub-regional programs. And one of them is, of course, one of the oldest ones is GMS program, Greater Mekong Sub-Region Energy Cooperation. And then we have CORRECT program in Central and West Asia. And then we have the South Asia one, SASEC, South Asia Economic Cooperation. Then, of course, the most recent addition is obviously we are now discussing how we are going to get involved in ASEAN Power Grid. So we are all over Asia Pacific region when it comes to regional cooperation. So this is such an important topic in that sense. With all that, let me now go into the discussion. And RCI, regional cooperation in energy in particular, is so important because, as all of us know, when it comes to finding optimal solutions for energy transition, the larger the geographic space you can carve for the optimization, the better it is, rather than covering individual countries or regions within countries. So it's quite normal. All those who have done mathematics know that optimization. So therefore, from an energy viewpoint, it's very important because you share clean energy sources, you share know-how, you share the lessons learned, and that's going to be extremely important for cheaper, affordable, inclusive energy access to our populations in the region we are working on. So with that small introduction to the topic we are handling, let me now first of all request Hong Peng, the director ESCAP, to intervene on the question number one, which is of course, part of it I have already told. When it comes to regional cooperation, if you can explain how important this is in terms of energy transition, improving reliability, affordability to the populations in the region. Please, Hong Peng.
Thank you very much, Priyanka. First, I want to congratulate for the 20th anniversary of ASAP. Actually, this is, as our executive secretary already mentioned, that this is a platform. You see the leadership and also partnership. I joined almost, I think, over 15 of this ASAP. And I really think this is a good time, compared to the platform we have in ESCAP. We mainly only have the government officials to join us. But here you can meet more stakeholders, government officials and private sector and a lot of investors. So it's very good to just learn the new technology and also to build up your network. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Congratulations again. So in terms of your question, I think regional cooperation is a very important mechanism, especially when you address this energy transition, because this affordability, reliability, modern and clean and modern energy, that is the core for one of the Sustainable Development Goals for Agenda 2030. So through regional cooperation, I think that's very good. You complement to each other based on the base resources and also the capacities and technologies. I think like the theme of this plenary, this cross-border power grid connectivity, that's also one options to diversify the energy supply and to meet the increased energy demand, and then in particular to address energy access issues. A lot of this cross-border power grid connectivity project, that's actually, it's a good kind of option and the solution to address access along these transmission lines. At the same time, this also improve the opportunities for the local communities and also to access to energy services. But regional cooperation, I think, mainly focus on one part is like a policy exchange, especially the good practices in different countries, particularly in developing countries. And secondly is also to improve the opportunities to have this investment. Most of the government, I think, limited of the public fund to invest in the energy transition project, in particular infrastructure, the large infrastructure. If you look at this Asian Pacific region, most of the transmission lines were built quite a long time ago. It's needed to increase the capacity and also to accommodate, integrate the viable renewables into the power grid. That needs a new investment. I think if the government set up the clear target, in particular to work together, have a regional kind of approach, and through regional cooperation, you will have more private sector, to increase their confidence to invest in the energy transition, in particular large scale and the cross-border, this kind of power infrastructure. And finally, also, I think the private sector has the technology. That's where the government really need to stimulate this kind of cooperation, and together with the private sector to work on the technology cooperation and technology transfer among the developing countries. I think South-South cooperation is another aspect for regional cooperation. We really need those kind of like a platform like ASEF to exchange good practices and also support this regional cooperation on energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hong Peng. Let me also ask you to, briefly introduce yourself, your role in the organization, and how you can connect this particular topic to the role you play in your organization.
Thank you, Priyanka. My name is Hong Peng Liu. I'm the Director of Energy Division from United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific. We're based in Bangkok. We have 53 members across Asia and Pacific. So our role is mainly to support the intergovernmental dialogue for sustainable development, and secondly, capacity building through regional cooperation, and finally, technical assistance to developing countries. And I'm very glad to join you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hong Peng. Now let me go to Kihara-san, who is quite close to us because we have been working very closely during the last 1 year or so, even more on very important regional cooperation, event, regional cooperation related intervention. And Kihara-san, you can start off with a small introduction of yourself and your organization and your role in that organization. And then let's go into your question. What I have for you is how this regional cooperation will foster innovation and scaling up of clean energy sources, because this is also very important if you want to really move fast and accelerate clean energy transition in the energy sector. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Priyanka-san. I am Shinichi Kihara. I'm the Director General for International Carbon Neutral Policy of Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan, and very happy for this opportunity to participate in this great 20th ASEF event. Our ministry covers the energy policy, the industry policy, the trade policy, and also part of the climate policy. So we kind of try to integrate all the policy for the Japan's effort for green transformation. We call it GX, our effort towards carbon neutral 2050. But also, Japan is very active in the international front. And first, I just want to share with you the 3 principles Japan thinks very important in the international collaboration. Number 1 is the triple breakthrough. We should aim for accomplishing energy security, economic growth, and also emission reduction simultaneously. We don't want to sacrifice one for the other. This is particularly important for Asia, where we are to grow. Second principle is one goal, various pathways. Many countries globally, also in Asia, share the goal of climate carbon neutral or decarbonization target, but the pathway to reaching that target is unique to countries. And there has to be a European model, American model, Asian model, and it's very important to identify what is the Asia model. So we always look into what is the Asia solution. And the third principle is the solution to the world. Japan accounts for 3% of global greenhouse gas emission or CO2 emission. So Japan will make our utmost effort to reduce the 3 to 0, but also we care the 97%. We want to contribute to decarbonizing the 97%. And Japan will bring technology, finance, human resource to make that happen. So that is the basic approach. And talking about the cross-border collaboration, Japan lives in Asia. So sustainable Asia is very important to Japan. So what we are leading today is what we call Asia Zero Emission Community, or AZEC, that we started 2023. AZEC consists of 11 mainly ASEAN countries sharing the goal of carbon neutrality and looking to the realistic transition through various pathways. And we have the action of one is finding the AZEC solution, particularly in the power, fuel, and industry sector. And the second pillar is the joint project. We have over 350 joint projects under the AZEC with various areas, including energy efficiency, renewable energy, power grids, LNG, hydrogen, ammonia, CCS, you name it, we have all the projects. And the Team Japan, including government, the JBIC, NEXI, NEDO, JETRO, and the private companies team up and provide tailored support in policy, business, technology, finance, and human capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kihara-san. That a very interesting, introduction to all what we can do in this space, and also the whole list of projects you have. It's amazing what you have at hand when it comes to clean energy transition. Now let me go to Jung Kwan from Doosan, one of our important technology providers in the region. And let me pose the same question to you, how we can innovate and scale up renewable clean energy transition in the region. You have the technology, you know the latest what you have at hand and how that's going to help. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to join this honorable panel discussion. First of all, let me introduce myself and my company. My name is Jung Kwan Kim, and the president of Doosan Enability. Maybe you are quite familiar with the Doosan Heavy Industry. That's our old name. In 2022, we renamed into Doosan Enability. Enability is a power blend of energy and sustainability. So that's our goal and mission. That's why maybe I am here. Doosan Enability is a global leader in energy solution based in South Korea. Our company has over 60 years of experience in delivering power generation technology, including thermal power plant is the old version. Right now, we are renewable, especially offshore wind farm and gas and steam turbine and nuclear power plant, especially in small modular reactor right now. We are committed to enabling the global energy transition through the innovation and strategic collaboration. Now let me share my thought on the matters. Cross-border collaboration plays a vital role in fostering innovation and scaling up the clean energy solution. But I like to talk with a concrete example at our Doosan Enability. Right now, we are developing ammonia or hydrogen co-firing technology to help decarbonizing existing coal-fired or gas-powered plant. So what is ammonia co-firing? It is a method where a portion of the coal, typically around 20% to 50%, is replaced with ammonia, a carbon-free fuel. Because the ammonia contains no carbon, its combustion has no produced CO2. That means we can significantly reduce the greenhouse gas emissions without shutting down the plant or building entirely new infrastructure. I believe this approach is especially meaningful for countries that still depends on coal for baseload powers, but want to accelerate decarbonization. This technology is currently being demonstrated in Korea. However, even though everyone benefits from such innovation, no one wants to take the lead. No one wants to take the first step. It becomes a tragedy of the commons. Nobody wants the first step. We can realize new technology. That's our problem. So that's why we need a facilitator like ADB is really important to like the business sectors. From our experience, so we've seen that pilot projects between one or two technology, one or two countries is really important to us because we need to get the first steps. Nobody wants to step. We can realize new technology to reduce the decarbon. That's my suggestion. So once proven in one market, technology like ammonia co-firing or green hydrogen can be scaled regionally through the cross-border collaboration. In short, to make a clean energy solution truly global or regional, I believe we must act together, not in alone, not in policymaker, not in like technology company, not in academy. We work together to make a move one step further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jun Kwan. You could see a specific intervention from the technology space which can bring down the emissions in fossil fuel-fired power plants. And we have to have a menu of technologies if you want to deal with this issue of bringing down emissions. And I'm sure all these different technologies will eventually help us to achieve our objectives. And now I would like to turn to Suwan from IEA. Please introduce yourself and your role in, she is based in Singapore. And I pose the same question to you and how regional cooperation would basically catalyze innovation and scaling up a renewable clean energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is my very first ASEF, so I'm very excited to be here on your 20th anniversary. I feel like you arranged that especially for me, so thank you very much, and lovely to see so many friendly faces in the audience. So for those of you who don't know, the International Energy Agency, we're now 51 years old. Our headquarters is in Paris, and our member countries are mainly from the OECD. And the agency was really formed as a technology-neutral, fuel-neutral agency that's very much focused on energy security, both traditional security from oil and gas, but also now looking at some of the emerging energy security risks going forward, which I'll talk about a little bit further. We're very data-driven, so if I start with a few statistics, if I could, Priyantha, based on our projections, we see that global energy demand over the next decade, 25% of that will come from the Southeast Asia region, which is second only to India. So between Southeast Asia and India, we'll have over 50% of global energy demand growth coming over the next decade. This is one of the main reasons why the IEA member countries decided to establish a cooperation center for the Southeast Asia region based out of Singapore to really focus on how we can support the governments in this region to meet their energy transition, energy security goals. If I look very specifically at the question that you raised, Priyantha, one of the fascinating and great global trends that we've seen in the energy space over the last few years has been the increase of the amount of clean energy technologies being used. So like I said, the IEA is very data-driven, so let me share two facts with you. Firstly, of all of the power generation capacity installed last year, 85% of that was renewable electricity. So that's a combination of solar, wind, and hydro. Secondly, as we noted in our global electric vehicle outlook, which we released a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even last week, 1 in every 4 cars sold globally is an electric vehicle. This is a huge step up that we've seen over the last few years. So what's the hitch here, and what's the concern that the IEA is looking at, and what are we watching out for? To build and manufacture those clean energy technologies, you need critical minerals. And right now, the production, the refining, the manufacturing of critical minerals is highly concentrated. And whenever you have a concentration, that is a risk. And we see that risk actually as one of the new emerging energy security risks going forward. So in the Global Critical Minerals Outlook, which we released last week, we noted that the concentration of the top 3 producers across all the different critical minerals, that's everything from cobalt, copper, nickel, lithium, rare earths, you name them, it's increased to 86% from 82%. And more importantly, the top supplier in each of those has really focused itself down so that in the case of nickel, it's Indonesia, and for all of the other critical minerals, it's China. So it doesn't actually matter which country it is. The risk is that it's concentrated in one place, and we need diversification. That is a key part of the energy security risk. So secondly, very just quickly, is the importance of cooperation, which we also see as a really golden rule of energy security. So the IEA and the UK government, at the end of April, hosted the first global summit for the future of energy security. And one of the key things that the 60 governments, many of which were from this region and represented in this room, as well as 50 of the large oil energy companies, from the oil and gas majors to the energy producers, renewable energy producers, noted the critical importance of international cooperation, even in this very fragmented geopolitical context that we're facing right now, will be critical, whether that's from a technology point of view, a political point of view, a financial point of view. Working together is what will help to enhance and deliver the solutions for the energy security risks we play forward, both in the power system, the traditional risks that we're talking about, but also in the new and emerging energy security risks of critical minerals.
Thank you very much, Suwan, for bringing that wider issues associated with clean energy transition and how regional cooperation is going to help to overcome some of these challenges. This is one out of many we have to overcome, and critical minerals is a very important element which goes into clean energy technology manufacturing space. With that, let me go back to Hong Peng and to my second round of questions. That when it comes to regional cooperation, of course, regional energy cooperation, it's very important to talk about the infrastructure, interconnections of the grids, and also absorption of or deploying intermittent renewable energy and getting them onto the grid-connected renewable energy. Now, for this to happen, it's not just a technical challenge, but also you have to look at the policies and regulations first before really you address the technical challenges. From your viewpoint, how can these policy frameworks can be brought in and adapted? All of us know very well there is no, you have to have a differentiated approach when it comes to these things, as Kihara-san quite rightly said. And what are your thoughts on that, the policy framework for this integration of renewables into such regional grids?
Thank you, Priyan. I really think a policy is very important for this kind of cross-border power grid connectivity, and especially with the focus on the integration of renewable energy. As I mentioned earlier, because we probably heard a lot of of us heard no transmission without no transition without transmission. So that's you really see the transition is a transit from the fossil fuel-based energy system to renewable energy-based system. So that means energy transition is really you need to integrate more renewables. So you have to build this infrastructure, which is ready to integrate the variable renewable energy. In particular, for the cross-border power grid connectivity, you have to, across the country, to work together. And recently we did a study for 11 countries in Asia and Pacific about their national grid. So we found that regardless of economic development, so countries face similar integration challenges. No matter developed country or developing country, the integration of renewables, the challenge is similar. And identified a number of key policy interventions that are needed to accelerate the integration of renewables. The first one is the policy must prioritize the renewable energy dispatch. So a lot of curtailment you see from different countries about renewable energy, it comes from this kind of dispatch issues and the connection issues. So I really think the policies should give priorities for the policy, to prioritize renewable energy dispatch. And the clear regulations should give to renewable energy preferential access to the grid, limit curtailment, and incentivize operators to contribute to integrate more renewables. And the second, so mobilizing private financing. I think that's very important for many countries because those funding issues, investment issues, the gap for grid extension, for grid upgrade. So public-private partnership can attract the investment from private sector and for transmission infrastructure. At the same time, if you have more renewables, you need also to think about the backup, in particular the storage part. That also need investment, and also you need digitalization to have a smart grid to integrate more renewables. And the third one is streamlining the permitting and the licensing process. I think this is also a challenge in many of developing countries. When you have more renewables, especially large-scale renewables, you need this kind of a long process to go through for the permitting and also license or land permit to get your project developed and also completed. So I think the policy should be very clear, and this to reduce the lengthy process, and for new infrastructure to develop this, simplify this process to accelerate the renewable energy development. And the number 4, you need flexible grid operations. So I think this policy also to support much more flexibility, how you just go through dynamic pricing, demand response from the systems, and also technology like battery storage to upgrade your grid code. Even that you need more standardized kind of the actions to ensure technical compatibility and stability. And the last one is the regional coordination and harmonization policies. I really think when you talk about the cross-border power grid connectivity, you need a regional market. You need this regional market regulatory framework and to work together with all the countries involved. So that kind of policy also needed to develop as the first priority to think about, to work together and to have a similar kind of a regulatory framework to work for regional cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Hompeng. You clearly indicated the areas of policy and regulatory harmonization required when it comes to clean energy integration to this regional grids. And for this, of course, eventually we may have to have an institutional structure also, as you know, and which is quite challenging in our region, as you know, when it comes to regional cooperation-related institutional structures when it comes to dealing with actual investments, actual infrastructure, and actual policy regulatory harmonization. But that's something which we need to really overcome as we move forward. Moving to Kihara-san. Kihara-san, at the end of the day, all this will have to lead to affordability of these services, the energy services to the consumers, and the distribution of benefits. Unless everybody is benefited from this whole exercise, it's very difficult to take these regional cooperation interventions, forward. And what are your thoughts on that? What are the kind of strategies you can adapt to make sure no one is left behind in this whole process?
Yes. So on the issue of the equitable affordability and trying to make the no one left behind. So as I mentioned, one goal, various pathway is a very important concept. And so each country will have unique pathway for decarbonization depending on their energy and economic situation. So different technology and policy applies to different countries. So for example, under our ASIC projects, there are geothermal power plant, Mualalabu geothermal power plant project, which financially closed in Indonesia. Obviously have the geothermal capacity. Also ammonia co-firing project in Thailand. And offshore wind farm, industrial park in Vietnam. Also geothermal and sustainable aviation fuel in the Philippines. So there's no silver bullet, one size fits all solution. But we want to find practical policy and technology solution matching each country. And one more point, just financial angle. I'd like to touch upon the transition finance, the role of transition finance. In these transitioning technologies, finance people find some difficulty sometimes because these projects are not green today. I mean, it's partially brown. So there's in a taxonomy type of thinking, finance people kind of get reluctant to move on the transition, on the finance project. But the transition finance not assess only the green or brown today, but assess what is the credible transition strategy of the project. So knowing that the project or like a grid will reach to carbon neutral by 2040, 2050, this project is a good transition project. And there's a procedure, international ICMA standard, how to do this. So this transition finance is a very important concept where we want to drive this transition pathway. And Japan is very active leading this discussion. And now today, Japan and ADB has a joint project to facilitate this transition finance in this Asian region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kihara-san. The last point which you brought up, it's very, very important. As technical people, we have to deal with the existing systems. And if you look at the existing grids, many of them are not 100% green, naturally. That's what we have inherited. That's a legacy issue. You have to deal with it. So if somebody is not ready to finance a transmission line which eventually helps to make the system greener, there is something really wrong somewhere. So somebody will have to find a solution. We are technical guys. We are ready to be benefited, benefit from it. But it's important to look at that challenge and overcome that challenge, because all these grids will have to gradually become greener and greener. It will not happen overnight. And this is an argument we always make within ADB when it comes to, half of our investments in, energy sector is transmission distribution networks. But only a very small portion of it is counted as green, climate financing. I have been making this argument all the time, without really looking at it very seriously, and without transmission being considered as an important investment in the transition, you will never be able to get things right. So that's an important, thank you very much for highlighting that, Kihara-san. Let me pose the same question to Jun-Kwan in relation to the technology, or broadly, from power sector viewpoint, the affordability and the distribution of benefits. It's very important when it comes to clean energy transition, taking the communities forward. No one is left behind. And what are your thoughts on that?
I believe we must acknowledge the upfront the countries in Asia face the different challenges and starting point ranging from access to capital and technology and to the availability of modern grid infrastructure. So first, targeted financing is essential. By deploying tailored instruments such as concessional loans, blended finance models, or grants through the regional infrastructure institutions are really important. So we can lower the cost of capital for less developed agencies. Second, the deployment strategy must be localized. In geographically challenging regions, such as remote islands in the Philippines or mountainous areas in Laos, utility-scale solar or wind farm may not be optimal. Instead, localized solutions such as a mini-grid or micro-hydro installation offers a customized approach to them. Third, comprehensive workforce development is a key. Regional cooperation should include capacity building programs, then training local technicians and engineers to manage and maintain these new energy systems. Another one that I want to talk is the cooperation between stakeholders like us, technology company, ADB, and academia. So those kind of cooperation is really key to make the faster, more reliable, more safer. Yeah.
Thank you very much again to bring out that point. As we have been discussing, we always have to have a differentiated approach, because if you want to take all the communities together and progress, obviously solution will have to be specific to a specific case, and you have to adapt it. That's very, very true. I mean, when it comes to rural communities, the way you have to address clean energy transition is different when it comes to urban areas, when it comes to centralized systems and so on. So that we have to keep in mind, and we have technologies to deal with all these different situations. So yeah, thank you very much for highlighting that. Let me now go to Suwan and go back to the policy question. And what kind of policies, how to adapt some of these policies to suit, eventually help regional cooperation, integration of renewable energy, at the end. That's our ultimate objective.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And very fortunately, Hong Pei has given a very, very good summary of a lot of the policy measures, so I'm not necessarily going to repeat them, but maybe just highlight a couple of things to think about. And I want to zoom in now a little bit into the Southeast Asia region and look specifically at the ASEAN Power Grid, which was mentioned several times this morning. I think, I am an eternal optimist. I know discussions about the ASEAN Power Grid has been many decades in the making, but I really do feel that strong momentum that's coming out at the moment under the current chairmanship of Malaysia and then soon to be Philippines next year for really moving the ASEAN Power Grid from a theoretical, technical discussion to an on-the-ground, actual interconnected power system for the region. And I think that that's incredibly critical. A couple of things from a policy perspective that will really help to accelerate that, and let me just pull out 4 in particular. The first one is, I think, the criticality of ensuring that we do talk about, from an enhanced cooperation point of view, what are some of those minimum technical standards, where can we harmonize some of those regulatory standards and frameworks in order to ensure that the electrons can cross border to border and minimize some of the impacts on that. So I think that that's a key part, which certainly the IEA is very keen to support the ASEAN Secretariat, the ASEAN Center of Energy, and I'm also very grateful that the ADB is also stepping in along with the World Bank into this space. The second thing is also about helping from a domestic country point of view. Right? There is no point having a regional power grid if within each of those countries in that region, they don't themselves feel that they've got energy security, they're providing affordable access to their countries. So the importance of making sure that we also support the countries within the regions to upgrade their grids, to bring in more variable renewable energy, to run their power systems more flexibly. So that's a critical piece of work that I know certainly the IEA is focused on, but also many of our multilateral partners like the ADB also in this region. The third thing is on financing. And, we've had some excellent points already on financing. So I won't necessarily go into a lot of detail, except to say that need for innovative financing models is really necessary. What is the potential for blended finance? How do we, maximize what is ultimately a limited pool of concessional financing to crowd in more private sector finance into this space? And it really should be on the grid section, but we know how difficult that is, and Priyanka has already also highlighted some of those concerns. But I think more of the mental and intellectual capacity that I know sits in this room and also outside of this room needs to really be focused on that. And then the final one is something that Undersecretary Guevara already mentioned, which is the importance of making sure that we support countries as they're doing their national energy and climate planning to also have a regional lens as they're doing that national planning, to be thinking through what might that energy security look like from an ASEAN perspective. What is the role of the ASEAN power grid? What is the role of the interconnectors to play in that space? Because ultimately you're all right. Every country is going to take its own path to how it gets to a secure, affordable, clean, accessed energy system for their country. But no country is an energy island, right? You can't do it alone. So how do we find a way to ensure that cooperation happens more effectively? And I think that will be a key focus going forward.
Thank you very much, Suhan. It's very important, the point you made actually. When it comes to regional cooperation, we should not think it's just cross-border interconnections, cross-border infrastructure. And it will have to be first the in-country systems and think of the energy security of individual countries as part of the whole regional energy security. Otherwise, nothing will move forward. And because countries' individual interests are very, very important to be satisfied first. But at the same time, as you quite rightly said, when it comes to regional thinking as a regional grouping, we have to, when it comes to improving individual countries' infrastructure, we should keep in mind the regional interconnections. Otherwise, it's again a suboptimal solution at the end of the day. That's a very good point. Now, let me go back to Hong Peng again on the affordability and distribution of benefit side. And, as the international organization, we always look at that. That's very important, taking everybody together rather than, focusing on specific population groups. Now, what strategies we can adapt to make sure that, at the end of the day, everybody benefits from what we are trying to do through regional cooperation. If cheap hydropower comes from one country or another country, the country who supplies cheap hydropower should not be suffering at the end of the day, and while others benefit from it. And communities affected by cheap hydropower, who would donate, give up their land, their resources, should not be should not be only the people who, at the end of the day, losers, and they should benefit too. So how do you think of this and the strategies when it comes to affordability and distribution of benefits of this?
Yeah, I think this is a very important question when we talk about energy transition. If you look at the local community, the impact to the local community, to the vulnerable groups, that's where you have to think about through this energy transition, what kind of impact they will have and what kind of benefit to the vulnerable groups. I think the first you have to think about the energy transition, there's a cost. So this cost for transition, how you distributed the cost. You can't just think about only those benefits from the urban areas, from probably the center of this consumption. You have to think about those people left in remote areas, rural areas, and also even in the urban areas, those vulnerable groups. Like I think in the video you just showed at the beginning, in Asia Pacific, we still have a 63 million population without access to electricity. So when you talk about the energy transition, if you do not consider how those 63 million population can be included, and also at the same time you have over 1 billion people cooking without clean cooking fuels, so that they have suffered a lot from indoor pollution, in particular for women and children. So the ultimate goal of energy transition is to benefit those people they can also enjoy the same kind of energy services and to support their daily life. And I really think from the policy aspect, so you have to think about how you just, when you design the energy transition strategy, how you include those populations. When you design your pricing of the renewable energy integration, how you just consider the impact. When you think about the cross-border power grid connectivity, how you just include those community along the transmission lines could benefit from this large infrastructure project. I think one of the good example is the CASA 1000. So it's an ongoing project which, when you design this CASA 1000 through Central Asia to South Asia, one of the component is about the social development component. So that is where, when you think about the investment, part of the investment will go to the local community development for health, for education, for energy access. Although probably the transmission line, you cannot just have like a subline to those community without access, but you can support a decentralized system in those areas. So I really think this is one of the examples when you have this kind of design. And secondly, recently we did in ASCAP the green energy, we call the green energy corridor framework, which we included the metrics which linked with the green energy corridor with the sustainable development goals. So it's not only sustainable development goal 7 for energy, which linked with the 17 development goals. So you can see the different metrics linked with the sustainable energy development, with the sustainable development goals, at the same time to contribute to green energy development. So that's where I think the government can also use this kind of framework when they develop their development strategy for energy transition. And also finally, I think the social impact for all the energy project and the energy transition impact, energy transition program should be part of the, when they develop this strategy and program, should be part of it. And from the beginning to think how to include the social impact into this kind of strategies and the programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Homping. The examples you gave, I can still remember, when it comes to our transmission projects in the early stages. Now, of course, situation is far better when it comes to energy access, electricity access. Frankly, the region 10 years ago where we were in terms of energy, electricity access to what we are now, we have, progressed significantly and exponentially, I must say. We have only 65 million people not having access now. It was hundreds of millions 10 years ago. And so from that viewpoint, we have done pretty well, particularly large countries like India during the last 10 years have done extremely well in terms of electrifying households. So I can still remember when we dealt with some of the transmission projects those days, 10, 15 years ago, we could see a generation station connected to the load center and the transmission line runs through all these rural villages. Not a single village is electrified. Everybody on top of their house, they could see the transmission line going, but no electricity for them, but to those who are maybe hundreds of kilometers away from where they are. So that used to be a very heartening situation in the sense, to see these people. I can still remember in one of these projects, we basically put a condition to the utility, you should electrify all the houses along the transmission line. Because even with all these houses electrified, still you have enough power to be delivered to the end consumer at the end of the, I don't want to name what the country it was, but eventually the utility agreed to electrify all those houses, all these villages, which is very important for us. Thank you very much for highlighting that. Shihara-san, if I can go back to the policy question from what are your thoughts on the policies, policy frameworks when it comes to integration of renewable energy, or particularly intermittent and whatever clean energy transition related interventions? Yeah.
Yes. Coming to policy issues, there are several specific common policy areas that Asia countries can identify and collaborate. Something like the DPPA, Direct Power Purchase Agreement type of solution is there, but many countries are now in the that doesn't have that in their system. So we can learn from each other who's doing good, how they can improve their market system. Those are very specific pinpoint areas, but also in a bigger picture, talking about policy, I think we should think this transition policy in the angle of environment policy, but also industrial policy. This transition it can become the competitiveness. That's how I see. So more clean value chain is a strength for industries today. So, for example, there is a specific project in Vietnam about zero emission industrial park. So we try to involve all the solar panels, energy management system in the industrial park and make the supply chain of the park clean. So it's difficult to decarbonize the whole country, but you can concentrate all your efforts in the industrial park, and that industrial park is a very competitive park. So that's kind of area that we can think of industrial policy to turn this challenge to an opportunity. And this is a way that METI, we take care of the industrial policy and energy policy, climate policy, so we can integrate all these together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for pointing that out. It's not just energy policy which matters, but overall policy framework for economic development. That should be there should be an integrated approach to this. Otherwise, in isolation, you cannot really move forward. In fact, this is what we have been always emphasizing. We are trying to find solutions to problems of the society rather than trying to find energy solutions, water solutions, or transport solutions. They are just enablers to find a solution to a problem of the society which you are dealing with. That's very, very important, Kiyata-san, what you pointed out. Going to Jun Kwan, let me go back to this, the reliability and the affordability side when it comes to regional cooperation. When it comes to regional cooperation, how do you think regional cooperation is going to help improvement of energy security, reliability, and affordability at the end of the day? And of course, energy transition is real, and we have to do it. There is no option now. And in that process, we have to make sure that it's affordable, reliable, and so on. So what are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I think the ABC is necessary for address that issues. ABC is the key element to address some questions in English term. A is affordability. So to make everybody affordable, we need to provide our clean energy at the low cost and sustainable prices. That's A. B, from the perspective of the business side, B is business feasibility. Everybody talk about nice words, green energy, sustainability, everybody happy. But the more important to me is to make our business feasible without any subsidy in some day. That's important for us to make our business sustainable. C, to me, cooperation. That means each country, even advanced country, cannot solve these issues. Even big company cannot solve these issues. Cooperation between policymakers and business society or multilateral agencies is quite necessary to address these issues. Seems to me, so far there is some gap between policymakers and business society, because we want to cover our very attractive technology from our competitors. Even some policymakers want to open their companies, their national companies' technology to other countries because of some competitiveness or some advantages. However, right now, everybody understands that it's very urgent to solve these issues. We are quite open, our technology, our policy, good policy recommendation, and finances. Recently, I realized that there are so many, in being society, we talked about very advanced technologies. For example, maybe this topic is not relevant. However, everybody knows that current big issue is nuclear power plant. Nuclear issue is a small modular reactor issues. Nuclear guys, everybody talk about small modular reactor in US, in Europe, and even in Korea. But I realized that this society cannot mention about this technology. I don't know why, because that is a clean energy without any CO2 emission, but there is some kind of a barrier to move forward. So I hope to some kind of open, frank talk to address this issue, if we really want to address this issue very seriously.
Thank you very much. I will come to your last intervention later on as a final thoughts to get your thoughts from you all. Suhan, I might, if I ask the same question from you on the affordability, reliability, and power trade agreements, how these are going to help eventually clean energy transition, going to help affordability and reliability in the region.
Yeah, thanks very much. There's been so much good discussion already this morning and in this session, so let me try and emphasize just two key points in this space. I think the first one, and maybe some of you can probably already tell, I'm an eternal optimist, and I like to see the opportunity, and I want to take up the theme that Akiharan-san talked about. You know, if we look at Southeast Asia, you know, it is an incredibly abundant, diverse, renewable rich region. And so the question is, how do we ensure that we have this interconnectedness between the countries in the region that maximizes that diversity, that maximizes, frankly, clean, secure energy for those countries and be able to share them across the boundaries is a really critical focus. And I reiterate again the famous 3 words of the ASEAN Power Grid. But I do really see that as an opportunity to ensure sort of affordable and more reliable electricity for the region. But I think the second thing is also about trying to ensure that we tell the story about economic benefits. Why does having these interconnected power systems, regional cooperation really help from an economic point of view? And I think there are 3 buckets that we can look at. So firstly, having an interconnected power system means that individual countries can reduce the amount of investment that they need for some of the infrastructure in their own country, because there is an ability to connect, ensure that if there's more supply in one country because the wind is blowing, along the, monsoon winds around the Philippines or in Vietnam, when the sun is not, shining so much in, say, Cambodia, there is still that ability to balance and play that out between those 2 countries and in that wider region. So I think that economic benefits argument is really critical. If we look, for example, at the Central American region, the CIAPAC interconnector that was built for the Central American region actually produced a cost saving of $125 million USD a year for that region in terms of being able to connect and share the electricity rather than each of the countries within the region, really building up their own excess capacity. So that's the first point. I think the second one is also that where you have an interconnected system, you're hopefully, through some of the market forces, ensuring that the cheapest, source of generation at any point in time is being deployed, right? So you're hopefully then reducing the electricity costs for people. So if we look at the EU interconnected market, the projection is that it was a $31 billion savings in 2021 because there was an interconnected market in terms of welfare gains for the people of Europe, rather than having isolated national systems. Now, I'm not saying that the ASEAN Power Grid will be the EU interconnected system, even I don't dream that big, but I do think that there is important that we tell that story about that potential benefit in terms of affordability for the people of the countries in the region. And then the third and final one, I think, is also around the importance of saying, it allows you to decrease the import bill for fossil fuel. You heard Under Secretary Guevara talk this morning about how much the Philippines is dependent on imported coal. There's also, we're seeing in this region, increasing import of gas. Now, we're going to need coal and gas even into the future. But the question is, how can we ensure that we manage some of that, fluctuations in terms of import bills and help to bring the bills down for those countries by encouraging more renewable domestic resources and shared between the region? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Juan. Particularly the point which you brought up, how much cost reduction you can achieve when you have an interconnected system. It's global optimization in a way. And the other important thing is that cost reduction, how that's distributed across different countries. That's an important thing which we need to look at also. Sometimes these cost reductions may not be fairly distributed either. That's an issue which we always have, and which we have to answer, a question which we have to answer to our people who you serve, our individual countries. That's an issue we need to resolve. Of course, through regional institutional structures, you should be able to do that in places like Europe particularly. And hopefully these institutional structures will evolve in our part of the region also. With that, I'll go to the other question which I just talked about. Yes, these are. I just want to give you, hear your thoughts as personal thoughts. I don't want you to represent any of your organizations or countries. What are your thoughts on this big hype on small modular reactors and nuclear in general? Because this has come back to the discussion only in recent times. When we were small, it used to be always the big talk in 70s, nuclear to the answer to oil shock, which we had in 70s. And things have been moving forward, but not as fast as it was. We thought it would, but now it has come back, particularly the discussion on small modular reactors and nuclear in general, and what kind of a role it would play in decarbonization efforts we have. Whether it is is it the right technology option, I must say, because it may not be the technology option for everybody. Can that be a technology option in the near future as a solution to at least the clean energy transition? Let me start off with Hong Peng, the difficult one.
Yeah, when we talk about nuclear technology, a few years ago, as you said, it's very difficult to talk in this kind of regional forum, in particular, like in our UN forum. Many countries have different views, very difficult to talk. But I think recently, especially after the net zero target, people realized nuclear could be one of the technical options to think about net zero. And also it depends on the national strategy. Many of the national strategies include this nuclear for their long-term energy development plan. And the small modular reactor could be the latest technology. People see there's a great potential for regional cooperation. And even on the SCAP, we have an intergovernmental body, the Committee on Energy. We have one of the working groups is mainly to talk about energy transition. There's one dedicated session we discussed about nuclear. I think the member countries just want to learn, how this could be potentially contribute to energy transition. It's not, you compare to 10 years ago, it's a very different view now. I think that could be one of the signs to think about how this technology can play a role, different technological options and different pros and cons, even renewable energy. There's also pros and cons, but how you just balance it. Think how you find what is a practical way in the context of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Hong Peng. Any thoughts from Kiyata-san?
Thank you. Japan is a nuclear country, and recently we are seeing this big power demand growth coming because of the AI and semiconductor manufacturing, all this. So even in Japan, we have been the population shrinking countries, so GDP not growing. But even for Japan, for the first time in 20 years, we are expecting power demand to go up. So, and probably all countries around the world is going to face the same challenge, developed or developing, or east or west, whatever. So the nuclear is, we see as a solution for, of course, the decarbonization, but also energy security and also competitiveness. So in our very latest strategic energy plan, we announced this February, we say we will maximize the decarbonized power, including nuclear and renewable energy, to meet this growing power demand. And coming to the SMR, this is one of the practical solution within the advanced reactor. So Japan is active in the new scale project and also the GE Hitachi's BWRX-300. And this can be a reasonable solution to many countries facing the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kihara-san, for those thoughts. Let me now go to a technology provider. I mean, if you can, Jung-Kwan, yeah, obviously your thoughts on this technology, broadly, but also any technology developments on SMR space, if you can share with us where we stand, in terms of technology development. Because there is this big hype on small modular reactors may be available within the next few years, that's how the discussion goes. But is it real? And if it is real, when it's going to be real? And because that's very important, particularly in the context of our region, as I have been always telling, most of our power systems are small. If the power systems are small, only if you have small modular reactors, you can accommodate these technologies, not traditional conventional nuclear technology, because they are in gigawatt scale capacity, and gigawatt scale capacities may not be applicable to most of the developing member countries we are dealing with in our region. So SMRs would be very interesting.
First of all, I'm sorry to interrupt this panel discussion. First of all, there are two reasons why SMR is highlighted recently. First thing is some limitation of renewable energies. Even though the solar wind is really good to address the carbon neutrality, but some country like Korea has a very small land, some country has no wind. But how to address these issues? Maybe another choice is nuclear power plant because of no carbon issues. There are so many, it takes a long time to develop the small modular reactor. In my company, it takes around a decade to develop the nuclear power plant issues. As everybody knows that the concern that large size power plant is the safety. It's the 3 Mile issue, Fukushima issues, that they are concerned about that. However, I believe engineer or academic or our scholars deep dive into how to solve these issues. That's why we can go into the small modular reactor. I believe it takes it around 2030. We can see the first SMR model in US. I said before, somebody take the new technology, then we can see the remaining part follow it. So I believe that Korea and US take the lead to develop the SMR. Around 2030, we can see the first SMR model in US.
Thank you very much. Suan, what are your thoughts, maybe from your organization viewpoint and or your personal?
I mean, as an Australian citizen, I cannot comment on the role of nuclear, but certainly, maybe two things. I think one, we need more. It's an end-to-end situation. So, the role of nuclear is going to be critical. I think it will depend on the country and the needs of it for Korea or Japan. But also here in Southeast Asia, one of the interesting things I found in the last, 4.5 months in the role is that real strong interest for nuclear in this region. The final point, though, I want to make is to strike a slight note of caution around that. I think it's very important that, nuclear is being considered in a lot of the national energy plans in the region, but there is something to go from zero to a full operating plant, whether it's an SMR, less likely to be, conventional large load. And that journey and the timing for what that takes and the consideration that needs to happen is, I think, something that we as the IEA, following the release of our nuclear report in January this year, we want to share a little bit more of that information with the region, and we will be starting a dialogue series kicking off in June. And that's everything from the permitting that's required, and remember, the permitting for an SMR and the safety considerations of it, although it is smaller, you still need to go through that proper process and that safety process. Secondly, from a safety point of, from a public acceptance point of view, which you briefly mentioned, I think there is still concern from the community about, the safety concerns around nuclear, whether it's an SMR or a conventional load. So how do we make sure we bring the public on that journey and the community on that journey? And then the two other issues is one around waste. How do we think about the waste removal, management of the waste? How do we store the waste? And then the final one, again, let's go back to that issue about concentration being a risk. The supply, how do we think about the supply of the fuel sources from a nuclear power plant, and how do we think about managing that from a diversification point of view? So I don't want to end on a negative note. I want to end on a positive note, which I do think nuclear does have a role to play, and it's fantastic to see technology providers really stepping up in the SMR space. But let's start the planning now so that as it becomes commercial, the countries in this region are ready to buy them off the shelf.
Thank you very much for those thoughts, and obviously looking at it from all sides, and ending up with a positive note. And so with that, I would like to. Usually we don't open the plenary panel for any questions from the audience, but I wouldn't mind doing that this time. We have about 8 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah, I can see hand here, hand there. Yes, please. Can somebody pass a mic to him, please?
Thank you for this wonderful panel discussion. I'm Imbo from GEICO, Global Energy Interaction Development Cooperation Organization. It's an NGO facilitating renewable energy by building connectivity. I'm so excited that several speakers has mentioned how important it is for us to have a very well interconnected power grid. But the thing is, from a technical point of view, people always realize that it's important for us to have more interconnection. It's always better for us to dispatch and use the renewable energies in a larger scale. But we still hear some different kind of voices, mostly from the governors, that the more interconnection we have, the more imported energy we have, the less energy independent we could achieve, especially in Europe. When, as a Chinese officer, NGO officer, I hear this kind of voices a lot of times. And based on this kind of concept, we could hear that when we want to facilitate the renewable energy interconnection in some specific region, most of the countries, they want to be the exporters instead of the importers, because they think the more imported energy they have, maybe it's not good for their energy security. So I was wondering, from your point of view, is there any method for us to get rid of this kind of conflict?
Thank you
so
very much. Let me. Who is going to take that question? Suhan, yes.
All right, let me have a go. So I think two things. One of the points is also about ensuring that we do help individual countries also realize their own energy security. There's no point saying to everyone, let's interconnect everything, but don't worry about your own security. There is a balance between the two. But I think, in certain regions like this one, where there is the abundance of the renewable resources and not at a fully maximized capacity, I think having an interconnected power grid as one of the drivers is really critical. Let me also give you a very specific of a country which is going to import its energy and is, right here in this region, Singapore. It critically knows it is going to be an importer of energy. It is one now. It's 95% powered by gas, but they're trying to broaden that now into renewables. So they set a 6 gigawatt renewable import target, and that's such an important demand signal for its neighboring countries, whether it's Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, broader into the region. that if you were to generate, renewable energy, we will give you that confidence that someone is going to buy it and that someone is us in Singapore. So there are, I think, different courses. Not every country doesn't want to be an import. For some countries, there is no other option but to be an importing country. And the question is, how do they, in their importing capacity, diversify who they're buying their energy from so they're not just dependent on one single country for their energy source?
Thank you, Suhan. That's a very good point, diversification of your supplies. And this particular security issue is there not only for just electricity, but for every other energy source as well. You import oil, you import coal, you import gas. Unless you diversify, the security issue is always there. So for electricity, we will not have much of a lot of choices because you need hard infrastructure to import. But still, you can find a way to diversify so that your security is not impacted that much. Yeah. With that, can you pass a mic to that gentleman over there, please?
Thanks, Priyanka. Actually, the questions that I wanted to ask are placed in the app, so I'll just quickly read it from the conference app, and anybody in the panel can respond. My name is Augustine Atwan. So Ojasvi Arora, she wrote a paper when she was with the Energy Studies Institute in Singapore, that the resistance from incumbent utilities may further complicate matters because state-owned utilities, and Indonesia has a good example, they're unlikely to willingly relinquish their current market dominance for a more competitive market structure. So this paper is on the record. So if you don't get national utilities wanting to play the game, you can't move forward in your energy transition. So broadly, would all four panelists respond? The other question that was also on the app is, and Suhan has talked about data sharing, but you need clear agreements on data sharing because that's crucial in order for you to have effective regional power trading. So panel, your thoughts on this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the second question, I will leave it to Suhan. And the first one, let me ask Hong Peng and all four of you can respond very briefly. Yeah, Hong Peng, you can start.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. For the energy transition, how you evolve this kind of state-owned, particularly the power companies, they really need to play a leading role. I think this could be the policy change, and also how do you just have the policies conducive for this energy transition. But at the same time, I think they are very influential, for the policies. But if they have the right kind of thinking about energy transition, that's not also benefit for their own. If you look at the development trends, energy transition, every country, the power company is just leading this. Although, there's a different kind of probably barriers, but I still think, the policy change and also the institutional change could be also one of the conditions for those bigger kind of influential companies to join.
Thank you. Kiara-san, any thoughts?
Yes, on the electricity market, Japan has gone through the deliberalization and market-based power market system. However, there is challenge in a fully market mechanism power system. The utility company tends not to invest in a huge capacity. Why you pay for big renewable energy? It tends to run on your existing asset. That's the most cost-effective way. So right now, what we are trying to introduce is the long-term low-carbon capacity market that push the market to tender for the low-carbon capacity, the renewable energy and low-carbon thermal power and all that, to move the investment towards low-carbon capacity. But that kind of policy intervention has to go along with the market mechanism. So, so we can learn. It is about learning, and we are also learning. And I think within ASEAN, Philippines is a fully marketized system. Others, there's state-owned companies. So this is the area that we can really do some best practice sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Jungkook? Yeah.
I'm sorry about what situation in Indonesia, but I think that every company want to be dominant on their own sectors. That's the usual. However, I don't know situation in Indonesia, but you mentioned about the data sharing. That's really important to us. That's why we are here. Idea, data, information sharing. That's important key to address these issues. That's all that I can answer to you.
And then maybe just let me quickly wrap up, and thank you. There were two excellent questions. I think the first thing about the utilities is, I think even more so, it's the importance of us to make sure we bring them on that journey for them to understand, how we can help them as the utility for that country to run their power system more flexibly, more efficiently, in a smarter way. And that's something that's a very big focus for the IEA, but I also know many of the other multilateral organizations in the room are very key on. So that's one thing I think we need to do from a capacity building point of view. The second thing is encouraging conversations between regulators directly so that they're exactly having the conversations, regulator to regulator, utility to utility, about the challenges they're facing and encouraging that sharing of best practice. And one of the things that the IEA, along with other support, is the regulator, Renewable Energy Transition Accelerator, which is exactly that conversation between global regulators on some of the issues that they're facing. I think on data sharing, again, really critical. But, the key thing, and maybe we haven't exactly said it on this panel yet, is none of this is going to happen without political will, right? So we need governments to want to do this, to want to have that bilateral, the trilateral, the multilateral agreement, and that is hard. There is a reason why we've been talking about the ASEAN Power Grid for, a couple of decades. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think we're starting to see in the current context, with energy security, affordability, access being such a key, and climate being such key drivers, that I think will be a sort of shift across, and we'll start to see more of that political momentum, particularly in this region.
Thank you very much, Suan. And at the end of the day, exactly what you said, the policymakers and the regulators, particularly a strong regulator, would help to bring about this change which you really need. But then comes to the issue of how to bring strong regulator, how to make them strong. If they are too strong, sometimes it's too difficult to do things also. So it's a balance you have to have at the end of the day. Thank you very much for those questions. I don't think we have any more time for questions. We really need to wrap up. And as you could see, we had a very vibrant discussion here and fantastic, wonderful, very knowledgeable panelists over here. Eventually, you can see the power trade, the regional cooperation really helps, the inclusive, sustainable, affordable energy transition in our region. And we really should get together and try to promote the regional cooperation as much as possible so that eventually we'll achieve our objectives. With that note, let me let's give a round of applause to the fantastic discussion we had. Thank you, everyone.